Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to SpeedHire's virtual session on hiring engineers. Allow us one moment while we are prepping up to go live on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Today's discussion is pretty exciting. SpeedHire, being the most advanced AI-driven talent assessment platform, keeps bringing you these discussions about hiring engineers and talent assessment in today's sport. Today, we've curated this discussion with Vishwesh, Ransing, and Ambrish, Kanungo. While the preparations are in the midway, I must tell you that today's session will bring you some key insights into hiring data scientists, why it's a conundrum for some, and why some people find it that easy, and how AI can help you make this easier for the organizations, especially for the SMEs and the SMBs. Today's discussion is brought to you by SpeedHire, which is AI-driven platform from TechGig. We've been assessing 1 million plus developers for the last 10 years, and all this intelligence, insights, along with industry leaders like Vishwesh and Ambrish, is intended to bring some insightful key takeaways for our listeners and people who join in from different parts of the world to know about what's latest in the IT hiring trends. Allow us a moment before we patch in the keys and we go simultaneously live on our social media handles on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you. And meanwhile, may I ask my co-panelists to please introduce themselves?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to the panelists and all the viewers who would be participating on this particular session. We are really excited to share our thoughts here, and we really hope at the end of the session, these are some useful inputs that which you could take away from this session as well. So my name is Vishwesh. I'm currently working as a manager talent acquisition at Avalara, which is a product SaaS MNC. I have more than 7 years of industry experience in this recruitment domain, where I have been working on more than 25 plus technologies that I've hired people from, with different vanilla and niche skills as well. I have been part of leadership hiring as well. Along with that, I've been leading, the intern and fresher hiring program as well out here at Avalara. So I'm really passionate about technology hiring, and I believe this field is very unique because I think we have the opportunity out here to change someone's life for the better, right? Which I believe is truly an amazing achievement that I love every day out here. And with this sort of evolution of tech industry that I've seen for so many years, I've also realized that how important it is to solve recruiting as well, right? At the stage, in the sense that how fast this industry is going on, maybe we are not really focusing on the recruiting aspects of how we are doing that, how we need to move from the old traditional ways to more newer, innovative measures which needs to be adapted in this particular recruitment industries. So I'll be happy to chat along with you and try to give you as much as perspective that what I've been experiencing in the market. And nice to have you all here. I think I'll pass this
to my. Vishwesh.
Thank you.
We are super excited to speak to you. And may I now ask Ambrish to please. Likewise.
Yeah. Ambrish, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vishwesh. And it is really exciting to be part of this panel. I'm Ambrish Kanungo. I head HR with Beyond Case Systems. We have 3 development centers in India, in Pune, Hyderabad, and in Indore. We work on multiple business solutions, technical solutions, working on our own products, part of products for our clients, majorly coming from US market. And we also work on one of the vertical, and why it is relevant to be part of this panel is one of our vertical is completely on business analytics, powered by multiple tools, a very big team which works on the data analytics. And overall, I am still find that I am a HR scholar. Overall, around 20 plus years experience doing both talent management and talent acquisition. But yeah, talent acquisition is more, I would say, near and dear to us because it gives a sales pitch while you get good talent on board, which really helps you to grow your organization. It really gives you a sales kick. So yeah, and overall, my experience is that what we have been actually practicing, learning, doing in past 18 years is no more that relevant at what it taught us in last 2 years. So the way the entire gamut has changed post-COVID era, it is more exciting now, challenging as well, as Vishwesh also mentioned, to identify talent, and then it is not no more a conventional way of hiring the talent. So really excited to be part of this panel. Thank you so much.
Likewise, and for the uninsuated and the people who've just joined here, let me welcome them back and bring them on to today's discussion and foray. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yojana Sharma, and I'm your host for this discussion today, where we are going to talk on very exciting things about hiring developers, especially in today's competitive recruiting market, because right developer means right skills, means right products, and right business. Today's discussion is brought to you by SpeedHire, which is a technically advanced AI-powered assessment suite. And we've done 10,000 plus tech assessments, and Ambrish and Vishwesh, like the way they were mentioning about how competitive the market has become, how tech-driven it's become, how logic-driven, how data-driven it's become. It's suites like SpeedHire, which are helping recruiters like them make the right decisions. Today's work world is complex. Piles of data is coming to an organization. Data science is becoming an unexplorable area for most organizations. It is here that organizations are struggling to find the right key people to be hired in the data scientist's profile. Either you are hiring data scientists right now, or you're going to require them in the near future. Hiring data scientists sounds easy, but the process may be a little complex for the uninsuated and the SMBs. Today's discussion is totally to decode and understand what really goes behind into hiring data scientists, which skills are in demand today, which traits are organizations looking for, and how should recruiters go about making the right choices and right fit for their organizations. I have with me Vishwesh Ransing, Manager Talent Acquisition Avalara, and Ambrish Kanungo, Head Human Resources Beyond Key. I would invite both of these distinguished guests to quickly share their opening remarks on the given topic before we move ahead with my piles of questions for you, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Vishwesh,
you so
can
much.
you please have your opening remark?
Certainly. Yeah, like you just pointed out, right? How much challenging it is to hire data scientists, and more than that, we need to understand the demand in the market has been rising so high, right? I mean, and I think the primary reason I believe why there is such a high demand is because companies wants to predict what is going to happen, right? In the coming years or in the coming future, right? I mean, one of the questions that if you see has been asked to Google CEO has been that how do you guys stay relevant in this technology market for so many years, right? I mean, if you really see this technology space, in the 80s it started with the personal computers. In 90s there was an internet revolution. In 2000 we started with smartphones, and now it's coming to Android as well. Like Android has been just for almost just for 10 years right now, right? So this is a very fast moving space when it comes to technology, and companies are in constant need to understand that what is going to be this new revolution is going to be in the future, right? And to understand that, they really need to, in order to predict the accuracy, they need the data scientists to make those decisions, right? And that is where we see such a high demand for them. So the principal purpose, if you see, for a data scientist is to find patterns within data, right? So they have a responsibility of making predictions from that data, right? So through these conclusions, they are able to assist company in making smarter business decisions. So I think I think that is where it becomes so important. I think for data scientists, if I really bifurcate them, I can bifurcate them into two different parameters, like data scientists, like data science for humans. where basically these people are influencing decisions which are made by, let's say, the executives, product managers, or the engineers, or the ops or business teams and other stakeholders, right? So they utilize this deep understanding of the business to develop these decision frameworks, right? So where they really need to, have a solid collaboration and communication with the stakeholders in order to build that. And then there are data scientists from machines, right? Which talks about, the algorithm data scientists, right? Which who basically develops model that are, power internal and external production systems. So they basically, apply a combination of optimization, machine learning, and basically inference method to design and improve and monitor models and systems. So I think, these are generally the two sets of, data scientists that, companies look for. And I think from an overall combination, they really need to be somebody who are good in coding, who can make not just coders, but somebody who can, understand the business case as well and make those decisions accordingly as well, along with coding. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much my thing.
Thank you, Vishwesh. From this thread, I pick up one trend, that coders are required in our data science to sort of graduate into data scientists. Ambrish, what's your patch about it, and what do you think about it? And of course, I would need your key input on the trends in data scientist hiring today.
Right. So I would say that it is a backbone of any organization which is data driven. And as more and more organizations are now data driven, these data scientist hiring has become very crucial, very important, and very creative, I would say. Because it is not about just coding. I mean, we may come across people who have hands-on on certain X or Y tool. I mean, they may be at data visualization, they may be good at Tableau, ClickView. But then it's very important that they know the game very well right from the fundamentals. So basically, they have to be problem solvers. They have to visualize a lot of things. Ultimately, they should connect the dots on what problems that they are working on, because any kind of data modeling they do, it has an impact on the decision making for the organization, wherein billions and billions of money is involved. So that way, it is a very crucial part. I would say it's a backbone. And similarly, the way the data scientist has to learn the game end to end. Similarly, in our hiring perspective also, the recruiters have to have insight of what they are actually looking at. Again, it is not about programming language, just that, but then it's end to end where we are actually finding out those right skills. The person should have good fundamental skills, familiarity with the statistical methodology, data mining techniques, also on the advanced visualization tools. So while you design any methodology or maybe any test or a screening process, level 1, level 2, level 3 interviews, you have to look at the exhaustive role, what you're hiring for. Also, you have to look at what domain the person would be actually working on. The way we are actually hiring people as a kind of a front-end developers, full stack developers, they need to do everything. Similarly, the data scientists have to also know the periphery of the game. So the domain, what they have exposure to, even those things are very, very relevant. So at this point of time, I find that the recruiters have also to have those kind of skills to identify the data scientists to that level. So it's a complex game, I would say.
So recruiters from some, have to be tech savvy to ensure, they pick up the right tech skills, like the way you mentioned. It just doesn't have to be about coding or knowing programming language, but the domain that you're going to work in, probably the clients also, the products or the services that you're going to be integrated with, and then probably you can make those hiring decisions accordingly. Ambrish, I'll go back to you. And what are the key in-demand skills in data scientist hiring today?
So there are 6 to 7 parameters which actually, if I talk about the full end-to-end data scientist or data solution provider, the basic fundamentals, which would actually include your multi-dimensional data model, ETL, JSON, XML, NoSQL, these statistics fundamentals. So we are talking about regression, continuous distribution, correlation, programming basics of functions, data frames, R basic, Python, arrays, Also, one element, which is the fourth, I would say, very important pillar, would be machine learning concepts. So classification, regression, clustering, neural networks, exposure to that. Also, when we are saying that the prediction, so a lot of text analysis would be there in picture. So text mining, natural language processing, those things would be there. On the tools front, the person has to have good hands-on on any of the data visualization tool. I mean, that your customer may be using it, or you have plans to use those data visualizing tools like Power BI, Plotly, Data Wrapper, Tableau, ClickView, that is there. And the basic concepts while you are playing with data, so data ingestion, data munging, and also something on the entire suite of, so that depends upon how your customer actually wants them. So the tools would be definitely Python, R, RStudio, Rattle, Weka. So it's a laundry list, but one has to ensure that the basic fundamentals there. If it is Python, SQL, NoSQL, Hadoop, these are good to have skills. So, and you can classify them as a primary and secondary skills, and then the recruiter can actually nail down what are the must-to-have skills and what are the secondary skills.
All right, I think you've given us a whole huge data pile of must-have skills. Vishwesh, would you like to add any of newer skills to this?
Yeah, certainly. I think some of the things like Ambrish has already pointed out, the technology part that is a must required for this role. But other than that, what really the companies look for is also the analytical skills. Like today, the point at the end of the day, company really looks for people who are great at investigating a problem and finding the ideal solution in an efficient and timely manner, right? So I think the analytical skills I believe, are also necessary right now when most of the organizations look for. Another interesting aspect that you may find in machine learning and data science is also about the cloud computing, right? Especially in this post-COVID market, a lot of the companies have moved their business functions to on the cloud itself in terms of the global network of remote servers, right? And it's working really well right now, because on-premise solutions are really expensive, they're complex, and that is not feasible for every company to get those built in, right? So a lot of companies are moving their business functions to the cloud environment as well, and companies are increasingly looking for people who also have certain exposure on cloud environment as well, be it AWS, Azure, or GCP as well. So I think these were the two quick points I could certainly add on the in-demand skills as well.
All right, so here it is, people, recruiters, developers, Vishwesh and Ambrish have given you a pile of skills, pile of things that you should be learning, polishing your skills on, and raring to go in the recruitment market. Quickly, I'd like to speak to Vishwesh. Do you think the standard interview process is flawed? You're talking about new age skills, but probably the way we are assessing people, bringing them on board, the way we are checking out their capabilities and the talent assessment, those things have to shift. Has this paradigm shift happened? Is it happening? And what kind of hiring process can give candidate problems that reflect real life challenges?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question, and unfortunately, I don't really see a lot of changes that needs to be brought in the interview process. Yes, it is flawed at several moments. I mean, the first important aspect I'll start is with job description, right? I mean, in the latest survey, almost 82% of people said that they don't understand the job by reading the job description, right? Because most of the job descriptions in the market continue to be generic, and they're not specific, and they don't highlight things that let's say, like job seekers wants to know more about what their day-to-day activities on that role would look like, right? So in a lot of cases we also see the job title is not very accurate or clear, right? So basically, let's take an example, like there is an organization who, let's say, is hiring data scientists for probably 8 or 9 of their team, right? So what they do is basically they build the same generic job description for all the teams, right? And though their roles and responsibilities would be different, but that doesn't really give the candidate the right picture in terms of what is the day-to-day activities on this particular thing looks like, right? So I think it's very important to have a specific compelling job description in front of people that the companies need to build. The hiring managers and the recruiters and everyone need to sit together and make sure they are drafting the right job description, right? I mean, that's the crucial point when we actually begin with. And then going back to the interview process, yes, I think streamlining the interview process is a must in a competitive employment market, right? And there has to be a threshold also for an organization to define that how many interview loops do we really want to have for a role, right? I mean, there is no magic word on this particular thing, but I mean, I believe that there should be at max 5 or 6 interview loops, not more than that, because there's always a risk that the candidate will start losing interest if the interview rounds drag on for too long, right? So it's important for companies to simplify their interview process, which can basically minimize these interview rounds, right? And still could still be as relevant and effective as what they are basically getting the results out of this many interview rounds as well. So if I really categorize a really effective interview process that has worked for us, so usually the first step that we go is with the initial screening. It could be via phone or video, right, which establishes the expectation. Okay, this is what the role is, this is what we're looking out for, and that gives us a clear idea whether we should really proceed ahead with the deeper interview activities or not, right? And then the next step could be a deep dive interview where we could cover along our discussions on the technology front and what are the skills we are looking out for, assess that particular individual based on those skills. And then the next step could be meeting the other team members, that there could be 1 or 2 additional team members that the particular hiring manager for that position could allocate. And I think the last step that we always do out here, which we feel is a really great predictor, is about the test drive, right? So this test drive could be like a role play or maybe a presentation on real life projects, or could be like any technical testing as well, right? To assess the candidate, to see how good they are performing in those areas. Like, so when I talk about real life project, this could be one of the things where the organization could see that, okay, when this person comes in the company, these are the challenges that he or she may face for the first 6 months, right? So that they could probably constitute a similar problem statement and let the candidate take some time and present it to a team of panel, and then the panels out there would challenge that particular person on that particular solution. So I think this streamlined interview process, which consists of like 4 to 5 rounds of interviews, I think makes a perfect fit for companies to assess the candidates. And yeah, I think another few aspects I can quickly talk about is what I've really recognized is about the biasness that are there in the interview process, right? I mean, hiring some people on gut feeling, right? I mean, these are some of the things that the organization needs to recognize and be aware of those biasness to make sure that we don't implement those in the interview process, right? So some of the few biases, common biases that I could talk with about, the similarity bias, right? Where people feel that, okay, if this person has different interests or different aspirations or different things out there, so he may not be a really good fit for this. So that could not be a lone indicator to reject somebody from those loops. Sometimes having that differentiation could actually add on further to a culture, right? That person could bring something more valuable to the organization as well, which is something I strongly believe that needs to be avoided. A gender bias is there in the market, right? When you hire for programmers, developers, like data scientists, machine learning, it's always a preconceived biasness among some people that, okay, maybe females are not as good as males in terms of writing code, right? For which there's no substantial data to back up as well. So that is something that we need to avoid out here. And the other could be the name biases as well. Like sometimes the interviewer or somebody reads the name and probably thinks, okay, I mean, should I really hire this person or not, right? I mean, that's something that needs to be kept away when you interview somebody. And similarly, it can be education credentials as well. A lot of companies sometimes feel, okay, we just need somebody from XYZ college, or we just need somebody with this sort of a degree itself. I think that should be kept away when you basically interview somebody, and evaluate that person in terms of what he is presenting to you, right? I mean, when you have a robust interview process in place and somebody is able to, scale that through, I don't really think this sort of, parameters should really matter at the end of the day. I think, these are some of the things that I believe needs to be changed. And yes, there are flaws out there as well. And of course, like now, when we are living in a digital world where the interviews are also happening on Zoom and other such similar tools, there are some of the best practices that we could also adapt out here as well, right? I mean, the best practices in terms of, like, when you interview somebody, you have to make sure that the interviewer are also turning on their video cam, right? I mean, you can't continue to evaluate somebody asking that person that, okay, can you turn on your cam, but the interviewer has not turned on their cam, right? Like, the other aspect could be to not cancel the interviews, right? I mean, at the last moment, it gives a very wrong impression to the candidate, and it impacts the candidate experience at the end of the day, right? So not to cancel interviews and being on time, or introduce yourself. When you're interviewing somebody, introduce yourself at the beginning. Explain them what you do and how are they related to you in this particular role, right? And similarly, at the end of the interview process, you should allow 5 to 10 minutes to let the candidate ask any question if he or she has anything, right? At the same time, we also need to try and sell the organization an opportunity as well, so that excites the candidate as well. And another factor that I see, when an interview evaluates, I mean, they either reject or select somebody, but I think they should also think from the potential of the candidate across open position, right? For example, if somebody is being interviewed for, let's say, a data scientist in the next team, but he could not be suitable for that role, but he could be suitable for a similar role in a different team as well, right? So I think that is where organizations also need to start thinking from a perspective to how to recycle candidates and see the potential where they can land accordingly as well, right? So I think these are some of the things I think as an organization we need to adapt to from an overall perspective. I can think about. I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, we'll probably go.
A lot of things, yeah. I think you've still given us
these are some of the important aspects that I believe are something that the organization really needs to look into.
While you've been generous in explaining, I still feel that there's a lot more to be done, especially in grainier segments like SMBs or startups or things like those. You mentioned about bias, which from a SpeedHire perspective, we were very, very cautious when we were developing this product. Like you mentioned, there's a age, gender, race, educational qualification kind of bias which creeps in, which is why assessment and performance measured on a given scale, and then the best people are sifted through the logic immediately, and then the hiring decisions could be made faster, data driven, and easier. That is the premise on which SpeedHire was built. And of course, you've actually shared a case study on how industry is sort of facing a little flaws, and it is high time that at least we redo the biases and probably upgrade ourselves. The way you're doing the virtual interviews and all of those things. I would like to take an input from Ambrish here when talking of gradier segments like startups hiring techies, data scientists, or SMBs hiring data scientists and all. What should be the 2-3 best practices for them to keep in mind when they are assessing data scientists to ensure that they have the right fit on board? Because the volume of the candidate that they want to onboard would be small. Maybe they just need to hire 50 to 100 data scientists, but then the kind of people who come on board like really decide the future of your product and service. So 3 essential tips for SMBs and startups.
Right. So one is very important thing is like you need to understand your customer first. So suppose I have a hiring assignment as a recruiter, I need to hire a data scientist. I need to first actually understand my customer, and a normal JD will not be enough. I need to throw as much as questions to my customer, to my hiring manager, which are pre-filtering questions. So that gives an idea that hey, we have to work in this premises only. We need not to go out, and because if it is a generic JD, generic search for the candidate, it may actually not land hiring the right kind of a candidate. And especially when I have to hire lower number, not a fleet of data scientists, it's very important that we know the customer very well, ground on the domain, the kind of business they are into, what kind of problem they are looking forward to get solved by your data scientist. So if that is clarified, and normally it happens that the requirement comes to us through our project managers who are in communication with the client, but then it's always very important for the hiring manager to involve the technical recruiters in that first call, while they are actually grounding down or describing what exactly they're looking forward to. So it should come directly from the right source. That is the first thing. Secondly, I would say we need not to pump in a lot of profiles in a conventional manner. I mean, essentially, if you have, I mean, like using a AI tool is inevitable, I would say. You cannot go with conventional manner, blast your requirements on multiple sites, and then start picking up each and every resume. You have to have a proper parsing of the profiles coming to you so that the percentage matches are actually on your dashboard. So it is very important. If you're able to have the tool on your own, nothing like it. If otherwise, you can have some kind of cloud licenses and start using those kind of tools. It solves half of the problem. So you have the best top 10 or 20 best matching profiles with you. And third thing would be if you're able to have co-piloting in your technical panel. So for example, we might have technical 1, technical 2. Instead of having multiple layers of technical interviews, it is better to call out small number of candidates and then finish them up in one sitting. So maybe involve half a day of their time if it is virtual or maybe in person, and engage a couple of people on the panel, which is like initial screening, and then go with the next level of screening, which is more about giving them business scenarios, understanding of their thought process, something like it. Having said that, I understand the recruiter, or assume that the recruiter has already done the initial filtering of what are the specifications you're looking forward to. For example, when you this data scientist, does the person come from a statistical background? Does he have the relevant degree? What would fit in him to this kind of requirement? Does he have good exposure to the business domain? And so that filtering has to be done well in advance at the recruiter level. And while you are actually engaging the individual, half a day, maybe not a typical walk-in, but then by invite, maybe virtually, you need to also sell what you would be offering them as an organization, what value in their career. So that employee value proposition has to be also communicated to the individual, because the person has to be right from day one, should be excited about that, hey, I'm actually striking a right opportunity for me. So these are very important things which are there. And the technical assessment, if you have a coding assessment or maybe peer programming embedded into this process, it will be a additional benefit to strike a right candidate in the system.
I think the last bit that you spoke is of the utmost important to both CIOs and CHROs, because a right person and the right fit actually creates the right product, especially in case of startups and SMBs, as we just spoke. As we move towards the last 20 minutes of the discussion, I would quickly like to speak to both of you about the role of the role of data scientists and business stakeholders, and how data can be used to achieve those goals. Probably let's speak with Vishwesh first and then move on to Ambrish.
Sure.
Yeah, I think like we discussed, the principal role of data scientist, is basically to find patterns within data, right? So in order to make accurate predictions from the data, they need to have a solid understanding of the business, right? So they need to really sync and collaborate really well with executives, product managers, engineers, and different stakeholders within the organizations, collaborate with them well, in order to make sure that whatever the conclusions that they are trying to drive out there, whatever the business frameworks, that decision framework that they are developing, aligns with the company's most impactful problems and its solution itself, right? So in that sense, I believe it's very critical for business for this particular role to have a, a strong collaboration with all different stakeholders within an organization.
All right, quickly, I'd like to take an input from Ambrish as well.
Right. So the data scientists have to be very creative when using data to solve the business challenges. Now, because as I said earlier, that they shape the future of data-driven organizations. How do they uncover new and transformative approaches while actually dealing with the data analysis? How good they are into quantitative tools. So and they are able to understand the business problem and come up with a predictive model. So that data modeling is very important aspect of it. And they have to understand what kind of problems that they're working on. If, for example, it is something pertaining to healthcare, say a predictive analysis of the next pandemic wave, or something related to the insurance services, the level of insurance services required. So at least that kind of visualization has to be there. The communication part would be definitely important role, because the data scientists, the way they would be presenting the data, it has to be very much appealing, covering all the aspects of the analysis. So that is there. And then, as Vishwesh mentioned, that collaboration between the different stakeholders, because at least on this role, I find that there will be huge dependency of the investors. I mean, if you are actually predicting something, you have come up with some kind of tool, there will be huge dependency of the investors. Your client may be actually looking at to throw out a new product in the market based on your model. So it's a very crucial role. It's a backbone of any kind of data-driven organization. Any vendor who are actually pretty dependent on your organization, where a lot of data is analyzed, is thriving on you. The implications could be around anything: healthcare, telecom, travel, also on education, on the genetic side, so biology, bioinformatics. So I would say multiple roles are there, but then it depends upon what seat you have occupied in, and then do you know the entire end-to-end business of your.
So we were just going through some reports, and they suggest that the demand for data scientists is going to grow as much as 5 times in the next 2 years. How true is this for Indian scenario versus the global scenario? Any input there?
Yeah, so I think with the new set of infrastructure coming in, so we are now actually talking about 5G. So the current situation is we were actually sitting on a heap of data, which is like historical. So say if you are doing a predictive analysis, what kind of market demand would be there, you are actually referring to old data. But now, as going forward, you would be actually required to analyze the running data in practice. I mean, a lot of applications are actually taking view of analyzing runtime data. So that way in India, I would say there's a huge demand of data scientists, and with the new I think approach, while we actually launching 5G, which will have a huge impact on our infrastructure, on agriculture, or on scientific research. So that way it automatically will help the smaller organizations to come up with new products. There will be new startups coming in, and that definitely elevates the requirement of data scientists to at least not less than 5 folds, maybe more as of now.
Maybe more. And I think the way you've connected it to different domains, and we've seen in pandemic, be it food tech, as in ordering food, or even retail, almost everything has sort of shifted to or explored the digital transformation way. And it is roles here that data scientists will be eminently required. So I think Ambrish is pretty right in predicting that the demand would just not be 5x, it would be probably more than that. Vishwesh, any industry trends that you would like to cite or share with us?
Yeah, I think I very much echo what Ambrish said out here. And one aspect that I will certainly add is that, so data scientists or machine learning, requires a different sort of an infrastructure or environment which cannot be easily adapted by companies, right? If I talk about other technologies, you know, okay, I mean maybe 3 or 4 weeks of boot camp can suffice the technology training as well, right? You can basically hire maybe a normal engineer and train those people on those aspects as well. But for machine learning and data scientists, I believe the kind of infrastructure and environment that requires them to work on these aspects is very different, right? So the companies are eagerly looking for talented and experienced machine learning engineers and data scientists from the market, who actually have those abilities to go and perform those job duties, right? It cannot be so easily trainable on the company's infrastructure or the facilities that company has. Maybe let's say down 5 or 6 years, if that thing changes, would be probably a different story. But right now, what I could really see is that they have a high demand, and they even are paid more than the rest of the developers, primarily because of the kind of work they do, which is pretty complex for any other programmer or a developer to adapt into this particular environment.
All right. And last one bit that I just wanted to pick up for the benefit of our users and viewers. We're talking about hiring data scientists, but what about people who hire data scientists? How should they ensure that they are right in sync with the trends? And we've spoken a lot about using data-led products or using AI suites like SpeedHire for analysis. So how do you ensure that you are in sync with those trends, or how do you learn or upskill yourself to ensure that you are hands-on with most of these suites and platforms?
So I think those who you have already hired, they need to have a meaningful engagement wherever they're working on them. Sometimes it happens that out of a project requirement, we may hire them, and then probably we may not be able to give them the right platform where they actually use their skills. So normally it happens you would actually go and shop a particular product, but then you don't know how you would be actually using all the features. Similarly, in the organization life also, when you actually get people on board, it is very important for you to give meaningful roles to them and ensure that their entire journeys enriched by different intervenes. If actually we have a set of people, like in our organization, we have, so the continuous learning is there. We know that what are the different trends which are coming as actually demanded by our clients, or if we are doing our own research, what kind of technical competencies would be there in future. So we would in advance give them an opportunity to do certifications, get them trained, so that they are engaged apart from their individual walk of life, day-to-day project deliveries. So that way, it has to be definitely the project manager has to be on toes to keep people engaged. That is what is highly required. And also, as an organization, you have to look at if you are actually tapping on niche projects, which finally gives a opportunity to your team members to work on cutting edge technology. So that is also important.
All right. Last parting notes and insights from Vishwesh, please.
Yeah, I think pretty much echoing what Ambrish again said. I think as an organization, one of the things that I would certainly want to point out is the equitable allocation of resources in an organization. That what we generally really see is that when we hire multiple people, sometimes it may happen that some of them gets the bigger cake of the project, some of them don't. So as an organization, I strongly believe that we need to provide that equitable access for everyone, so everyone has the right opportunity to upscale themselves on those particular projects. And like about trainings, that as an organization, see, technology is always an evolving space, right, where everyone needs to adapt and learn new stuff as well. So I think as an organization, there always needs to be that helping hand available with maybe some tools or new learning activities where they can upskill themselves in those particular areas which the new market is going to be adapting.
All right. Thank you so much, Vishwesh, for those closing notes. I think we've had a handful of discussion around data scientists, how they are being recruited, the in-demand skills and all. And Vishwesh and Ambrish were pretty generous in sharing their views, industry trends, and insights. Thank you so much, Vishwesh. Thank you so much, Ambrish, and a heartfelt thank to all the viewers and all the users who've been with us through this discussion. I hope each one of you take some insightful facts and trends, and probably reach out to Vishwesh, Ambrish, and us in case of any follow-up queries. Thank you so much. On behalf of TechGig, I'm just wrapping up this discussion.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye, everyone.